today I am joined by Allyson, who's a colleague of mine from Magenta Financial Planning, and she's going to be talking about timekeeping and prioritisation. So I'm going to hand over so that she can introduce herself and hand over to Allyson so that she can share her slides, etc. And then, as I said, we will take questions at the end if you've got any questions and want to follow up on anything. So over to you, Allyson.
Hi, so yes, as Gretchen said, I'm Allyson. I'm the Business Manager Director at Magenta Financial Planning, and I was asked by Gretchen to do a presentation about time management and prioritisation, something that we all do without probably even thinking about it, but actually thinking about how we can do that better. So I'll just share my screen now and start the presentation with you. And then at the end, we will have any questions for anyone who wants to ask any questions. Okay, so first slide. So time management and prioritisation skills. And that pretty much sums it up. They are actually skills that we do need to have. They don't just come to us, and they are definitely a learned skill. So hopefully today I can give you some tips on the things that I've learned over my far too many years working that have helped me be able to prioritise and deal with time management. So what is time management? Well, good time managers know that time management is important, and they actually plan. And it almost sounds counterintuitive that we set ourselves time to plan in the morning, but it really is probably the biggest tool in your armour to do. Whether you plan the night before or the morning, it's really important to actually sit down and make a plan for your day. In most of our worlds, we tend to be reactive, and that's sometimes something we have to do. But if we can actually plan our day more, then we'll find that we will get more hours from the day and we will be far more productive. So time management is being able to manage your day work in a way that ensures you are getting the best results for that day and that you have been efficient. So if at the end of the day you can sit and say, I managed to get through the things I wanted to get to, then you've had a really productive day. One of the questions I get asked is, are some people just naturally good at time management, or is it a skill that can be learned? I can pretty much tell you that nobody is automatically good at time management, and it is skills that are learned, whether through experience or whether through teaching yourself tips and hints to help you do it. So time management and successful prioritization is a skill that you can develop. And you can also help your team develop those skills as well. And like everything, practice makes perfect. Learning what works and what doesn't. And that will be different for everyone. Some people like a certain way of doing something and they find that that works for them in their business and their team, whereas somebody else might find that that doesn't work with the nature of their job. So why is it important for good time management and good prioritization? Well, obviously, it is an important aspect of our jobs, but there's some other things that we have to think about. So with busy scheduling, it's really, really important to make the most of your time in your working day. We only have a certain amount of hours in our working day, and if, like me, you tend to have an awful lot of things that you need to do in that day, time management and prioritization is going to be your biggest tool for the day. We get bombarded with emails and notifications and interruptions through the day. So it's really important that we find ways to manage that. And something we don't think about, but is really important, is self-care. We take it for granted, but stress is the biggest problem that we have in the work today, whether it's ourselves or our team. So actually having good time management and prioritization reduces that stress for you and your team. So what are the tips that I've learned? So here's a couple that I think will be useful. Get it down on paper or digital form, whatever your to-do list is, and get it out of your head. As with most things, when we keep it in our head, it tends to be magnified and it can add to our stress levels. So put your priorities in order as well. And one of the biggest things that I see is poor communication when it comes to prioritizing and time management. We all get given tasks and we make assumptions that we know when that task needs to be done. I've done it myself where I've been given a task and assumed it's important, only to rush through and do it and then get told, actually, I didn't need it right now. So one of the biggest things I would say is communicate when you've been given or allocated a task, that you have very clear timescales given to you. And you check in as well to make sure that those timescales don't change. Also use, you do not disturb. We tend to not want to do that because we think that it comes across as rude or it comes across as incorrect if we're managing a team. But it's actually okay to say, I need to go on do not disturb. I need to give myself peace and quiet to get this task or tasks done. Can you delegate the task? Again, as managers or anybody, we tend to think that we're the only person that can do that task. When actually, in fact, if you're looking through your priority lists, what are the smaller things that maybe can be taken off you to allow you to focus on the bigger tasks that you need to do? And this is one that I got taught very early on, which was set time blocks. And what that means is if you've got a load of tasks, work out how long you think they're going to take you and allocate that time to yourself and say, I'm not doing anything else until I have done these tasks. And break your big and complicated tasks into smaller chunks. We can get overwhelmed when it's a complicated task. If we break it down, it really does help when it comes to getting through and organising how much time you think a task is going to take. And that really will help with your time blocking and your time management. And if you're like me, there just never seems to be enough hours in the day. But with these tools and tips that I'm hoping that you can take on board from what I'm going to give you, you will actually find that you do gain some extra time in the day that will hopefully help you get through your working day. So time management. Think about, when is your energy at its peak? Plan your difficult or complex tasks around this. And there's actually a word for it. It's called chronotype. Just basically a fancy word for your body clock. Some people are better at the morning. Some people are better after lunch. If you know you're a morning person, when you start planning for the day, think of the tasks that are more complicated that can go and be done in the morning when you know you're at your best. Plan your day the night or the day before. It doesn't have to be done on that morning. And it does mean that you're not doing it on the day and therefore taking up more time. And that will be especially important when you've got a day that you know you've got a lot on. Planning the night before will just give you headspace to approach the day in a far better and more positive manner. Say no. Maybe not quite so bluntly as that. Sometimes we take on tasks that don't always need to lie with us. And sometimes it's okay to say that maybe you're not the best person to do that task. And as I said before, work out how long a task is going to take you. Now, it might not be accurate because, as we know, things change. But if you have got a rough guideline, it really does make planning your day a lot easier. And use a to-do list. I literally live by my Monday board list. And some people will have a piece of paper, or some people have a digital list. And I use it in my personal life as well. I don't think I'd get anything done if I didn't have my to-do list. But honestly, it really does enable you to set your prioritizations and just manage your day. And it is a lovely feeling seeing things ticked off as done. And as you get to the end of the day, that you've managed to get through at least the tasks that you definitely wanted to do that day. Audit your tasks. Is there a way that we could do them smarter? A different day? Do they have to be done on that day if you've got other big tasks to do? Can they be done quicker? Can you use a tool to speed up the process? We all get very complacent in how we do things, but do they need to be done that way? So again, think about that. And group smaller and similar tasks together. For example, if you're paying invoices or staff, and this is where planning your day really will come into play. If you work out what your day is going to look like and you can go, I need to pay some invoices, I need to do something else on my accounts, set a time that you're going to go onto your account system. So you will do it all in one go. And it really does help you manage your day that way. And avoid multitasking. We all think we can do it and we all think it's a time saver, but very often it means we make mistakes and we can't concentrate fully. And that's easier said than done if you're in a task in your team or somebody is asking you to do something else. But honestly, sometimes it's really just about focusing on the one task that you've got to do. And the biggest thing, try to eliminate distractions. And I know that's easier said than done. Our biggest distraction, probably emails, and I know it is for me. So go and set a time for yourself that's outside of your time blocking and agree that you'll only look at your emails once you've either done your time blocking or done your task. And also that can mean explaining to your colleagues that you're not going on your email until a set time. And turn off the notifications, because if they keep popping up, you're likely to get distracted and you're likely to then go, right, I'll just answer that email. And you can close it, put it back on at a later time. So don't keep your notifications off if you don't need to, but definitely when you're concentrating and needing to do your time blocking, turn off the notifications. The other thing is close all your tabs that you have on your computer, because sometimes it's very easy when you're doing something to look at another tab that's running alongside another screen that's popping up with Teams messages. So close them if you're doing a task that needs your full concentration. And tell your co-workers that you're not on Do Not Disturb. I used to have a manager before that had a banana, and he'd put a banana on top of his computer screen, and that was his sign for, I'm on Do Not Disturb, leave me alone until I take that banana off. You don't have to do it quite that way, but there are ways you can do it just by telling your team, put your headphones on, or if you've got a quiet space, take yourself off into somewhere quiet. And my final thoughts, hopefully, for you are make planning part of your day. And whether that's the day before, the night before, or that morning, it will honestly save you time. And it will also save you stress that you've made a plan for your day. Use your A, B, and C's as well when it comes to your planning. So when you sit down and you go, what have I got to do today? Prioritize them in order. What are your A's? So what has to be done today? What are your B's? So the next most important things, but not as important as your A's. And then what are your C's? What are things you don't need to necessarily do today, but you will if you've got the time? That is really important when it comes to your planning. Reduce your distractions. They really will eat into your time. So if you can reduce those, you'll be surprised at how much extra time that buys you. And prioritize your workload and use communication to assist you. Don't make assumptions on tasks that need doing by other people, and don't assume that you are necessarily the best person to do that. And if you are struggling to get your work done or a task done in the set time that you've been given, communicate with that person and say to them that the difficulties you're having, and you may find that they'll be able to support you through that. So hopefully that's some helpful tools that will help you with your time management and prioritization. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that open to some questions now if anyone's got any questions you want to ask.
Thanks, Sally. Can you just shut down your screen so that we can see you and got everyone else as well? Well, I'll start off and then we'll see whether anyone else has any questions that they either want to put in the chat or they feel like putting the video on and, you know, asking. But yeah, so one of mine is, can you give us examples? Because from my perspective, I think what's really helpful about this is that we can apply it ourselves, but we can also think about applying it to the people that either we're managing or working with or trying to train. So there's a multitude of people who listen to this. Some people are going to be in that position themselves where they're trying to time manage and think about prioritization. But obviously you and I have both got experiences of how that, especially with trainees and things like that, how that impacts them and how you've started to work with some of our trainees and problems that we've seen with them. So do you want to just share maybe some of the things we see repeated, because I think that might help a little bit as well?
Yeah, so very often one of the biggest problems that certainly new staff have got is that they get this work and then they don't really think about prioritization. And I think that's the biggest tool, if you can take this into your teams, is teaching them about prioritization. And certainly new people coming into the work industry, or if it's a new one, they feel like they've got to do everything and everything is priority. And this is where this A, B's and C's, or however you want to word them, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call them. And that's what I mean about planning. For them, it's also vitally important, and communication. So they're given tasks sometimes by many different people. And I think it's really important then that they communicate, they use their ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, whatever they want, and communicate with that person and go, am I right in saying this is my A's and that task is an A, not a B task?
Yeah, because that's what we've seen, isn't it? Like things that we might have delivered as a task, we think is C, they put A above everything else that they're also juggling. So we see that quite a lot,
And then they get very stressed out. So I think if you have got a new starter or even someone that seems to struggle with getting their work done, I would definitely sit them down and use this ABC and let them also communicate with you to say, can I check that is an A task? So if you have got a new starter, maybe set that at the beginning, right, this is an A, what I would class as my A task, so that needs to be done today. And also the biggest thing I'd say is allow them to communicate with you and check in with you and just say if they're struggling to get through everything, and then maybe then roll up these things like no distractions, time away from others in the team that they might feel a bit intimidated by. So again, that open communication and then realizing what's A, B's and C's will help them focus more and realize if they're getting through it or not. And if they're not, come and talk to you.
Yeah, and I think it's about that weighting as well, isn't it? So as a senior management or business owner or whatever level you've got like different weightings. So for me, it'd be like, well, that's important, but it's also got a business weighting on it. So therefore it kind of like bumps it up the queue. So I think that, those things are kind of easy to maybe not understand if you've not got a bigger picture and view. I've got a question from Naomi, which is, what do you do if you have too many to-do lists and how can you stop getting overwhelmed? Wow, I wish I'd mastered that. Don't think I have.
That's a really, really... So what I do is I really use a Monday board, and through
you want to explain what Monday is, just in case no one knows what's going on?
Monday is a digital to-do list, basically, and it's really useful tool because I start my day with my A's, B's and C's, and that can change as the day goes on. But having it in front of me is a visual focus on what is my priorities. And I think that the biggest thing is, as we know, I can start my day thinking I know what it's going to look like and what are my A's that day. and then something else will come in and it's far more important. And you have to be adaptable. And I think that is where this ABCs come in, because something that might have been an A, if you get something given to you through the day that becomes far more important, that might move down to a B. And visually that allows you that headspace to then go, right, okay, it's in my Bs. You know, it really honestly does make such a difference when you visually see your ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, because you know then the things you've absolutely got to focus on that day. And I think the biggest thing for me is communication. You know, whether that's communicating to the team, I've really got to focus on this today, or communicate with the person that gives you that task. Right, that's fine, I can do that. But it does mean that these other things that I was going to do today might not be able to get done today. So I'm just setting the picture for you. And what that does, it gives you that sense of control. Because I think all too often as we get given things, we don't want to say anything. And then we take this pressure and we feel overwhelmed. And I think that's the thing that by having a to-do list, communicating really will make a difference to you. You know, and one of the things that we talked about is what happens when you've got lots of A's. You know, we all have this where somebody, you know, everybody gives you things and they're all important and they're all A's apparently. They're not. Some might be an A plus and some might be actually a B plus. So again, it's okay to readjust through the day. And I think that's the other thing. An A might move up to an A plus and an A might move down to a B plus. I mean, that's okay as well. But again, communicate that with your stakeholders, with the people who are involved in that as well. Yeah.
I think also if you've got a manager like me who doesn't always tell you like, oh, this is not urgent, or this is, you know, as Kerry's put in the chat that, you know, new staff, I would say generally staff, often respond to the person who's given the work, you know, as that's priority versus the actual priority. So I know that I'll go into the team and I'll say something and they'll all think that's the priority. So as a manager, I know that, you know, if it is low, I need to tell them this is low on your agenda. You can wait till I'm not here, or you can wait till I've got my week off next week. You know, it doesn't have to be. So I think I've learned to communicate, not necessarily when it's high priority, because you could just sort of say, well, then if I'm not telling you it's low priority, it's of high priority. But when the things could wait, and when we're going to they're going to be able to time block for those, I think I've learned I have to communicate a bit better with that.
I think that that's also true for ourselves as well as our team, that we very often get given a task and we're told it's important, right? So it becomes your A. What we don't do is go, when do you want it by? We don't set an actual time, and we can tell the team that. It's really important, really important. Now, in your brain, that might mean I need it by the end of the week. They're going to go, oh, she needs it by the end of today. You know, and same for vice versa. When I get given things, I'm assuming it's got to be done straight away. So, you know, in some respects, your biggest tool with time management and prioritization is your communication. Yeah. Because it might be that it is really important, but it's not important right now. It doesn't have to be done today. So therefore, that doesn't become your A today, does it? That becomes your B today. So yes, if you get round to it, fantastic. Yeah. But if you don't, it's not something to stress about, because that might become your A tomorrow. But right now, today, it's a B. So I think, again, it's really important that we do communicate and we don't just make assumptions for our staff or for yourself. So again, you know, ask those questions. It's okay to ask those questions. And also it's okay to say if you are going to be outside of those timelines, because things happen, you know, teams happen, you know, events happen, and it's okay. But again, good communication reduces that stress as well. You know, again, look at speak to your manager, speak to your team. Is there something that doesn't need to be done right now? Is there something that can be given to someone else? You know, and again, you know, time management and prioritization is all about reducing the stress levels. You know, so communication on top of those things should hopefully help everyone in the team and yourself feel better about your day, your week, and getting through your work.
Monday.com is the thing that we use, and
Yeah.
we don't, you know, it's a little bit like a way of creating tasks or to-do lists that are separate from your CRM. If you run a CRM, it's not, you can build workflows into it, but Ally's, you know, Ally and the team each have their own kind of to-do lists that they can manage themselves, but people have also got visuals on those. So for example, like if you really were worried about how busy someone else was, or you need to show them what's on your list, then it's all kind of online on a browser, you know, it's a browser-based app that you can use. And we do use it for, we use it for everything. We use it for meeting planning, we use it for, you know, workflow planning. So, but there's a, you know, there's a free version that you could just keep your to-do list on and not, you know, that kind of thing, which is very helpful. I'm not sure if that answered Naomi's overwhelmed question or not.
I think one of your questions was what, you know, if you get given tasks by lots of different people, or your team get given lots of tasks by different people, and sometimes if it's the director or someone that's given them the task, they may feel that that task is more important than something you've given them, and it might not be. But as you say, it's very often the person who gives them the task that they assume that must be. But again, if you give them the skills and tools to communicate and say, even to their director, whoever, you know, what is your plan for this? When do you need this done by?
Yeah,
You know,
and also if you're the person with that manager who is just hopeless at telling you when they need it, and therefore that's the thing that's overwhelming, I think it is really, really important to kind of just push back on it. Sometimes we have to remember we have to manage up. We have to tell them what it is that we need, so that we can, you know, because they can't see that picture, they can only see their own little bubble. So that's really important as well.
I think as well, for if you've got a new starter, or if you've got a team member that seems to struggle with getting their work done in a time scale, sit down with them and actually do a to-do list with them and teach them those skills. Because as I said, people who've got good time management and priority skills, they haven't got those automatically. It's very rare that people have that. They are skills that are learned. They are tools that we use, you know, and whether it's a manual to-do list, whether it's a digital one, or just, you know, good communication, they are skills that have to be learned. And I think, you know, if you can teach your team those skills early on, you know, and about communication, whether it's with each other, whether it's I've got a task that needs to be done, but it needs you to do your part of your role, you know, that's another part of it as well, you know, working as a team and talking together so that you can plan your day. Because I don't know about you, there's nothing more frustrating than you're waiting to do something and your team member that you need something from to do yours hasn't done it. So again, that's about that communication between you. So as I said, the biggest thing I can say to you that I have definitely learned over the years of doing this and running teams is definitely your planning and definitely communication. And if you get those two things right, then you will find that yourself and the team will, one, be more efficient, two, get through far more than they think that they can, but more importantly, their stress levels will go down, and so will yours, because you'll feel less stressed because you're managing your time, and your team are less stressed, which makes always you feel less stressed as well. So, you know, if you can take those things away from this, that's the biggest things that I would say.
Thanks, Ally. Celeste has raised her hand, so unmute yourself, Celeste. Hello.
I'm so sorry, I missed the first couple of minutes of this, so I don't want to derail your agenda, but I wondered if I could share a couple of tips. So neither of which I've mastered, but so the first thing I'd mention is I came across, I think it was an article fairly recently on a similar topic, and the author said that something to bear in mind with your emails is to just to have in the forefront of your mind that if your first task in the morning is to kind of rattle through all your emails, just bear in mind that what's likely to happen is the responses to those emails are going to come back around the same time. And that leaves you with another kind of chunk of things to do. So I guess the point there is to try and prioritise the emails in terms of, do you have to respond to this immediately? Could it wait an hour so that you can stagger the work that's likely to come back, as a result of sending that set of emails.
That comes to that time blocking. So that time blocking where you say, right, I'm going to allocate this much time to go through my emails and respond. But once that time is gone, so say you've given yourself an hour, once that time's gone, you stop and you then go on.
I'm terrible at that.
Yeah, another thing that actually I find works like on that, Celeste, around emails, because I just get overwhelmed by my emails. I find it really, really, and it's been compounded post-pandemic with Teams and LinkedIn notifications and, all of these other things that we now have to manage. So like you're saying, I used to be one of those people, come in and my emails would be the first thing that I would do. But now I've got different folders that I put them in. So all I do is they'll be moved into like action, but not urgent, client outstanding information, what it is. So I've got folders. So then when I do have that time block time, or in my case, when I'm not in a client meeting or I'm not on something like this, then I'm going to be going into that client urgent responses needed, because that's going to be my priority folder. And frankly, the action needed, not urgent, stays until I got time to look at them.
Yeah.
And loads of emails go into emails not sure even if I need them. They're the junk ones that you don't know if you need, so I think that helps quite a lot as well.
I definitely think the time blocking as well. Set yourself only a specific time in that morning to look at your emails and be strict with yourself. Even if a response comes through 5 minutes later after your time blocking, it doesn't matter. You've time blocked. You've set within your day another time block for looking at your emails. Yeah. There's nothing usually so urgent that it can't wait till your next time block.
But and it's like, the fact is now everything's instant, right? So our phones demand us to respond instantly, emails to respond, and the reality is that, I think Alyson's right. Occasionally I might get an email from a client, but if it was really urgent, they would have picked up the phone. So
see, I'm the opposite, but then my role is very different. I'm in marketing, so I'll tend to ignore the phone because I'll think, well, I'm in the middle of something. I don't want to. Whereas if an email pops up, I better check that. So that's definitely something I need to work on.
It's definitely, honestly, if you can do this time blocking, you will be surprised how much more time you will gain in that working day, because where we're stopping, stop, start. You think of a journey in a car and you stop, start with your road traffic. Whereas if you were going for a set of time, you'd get a lot further, wouldn't you? Until you'd have to stop for longer. So honestly, the time blocking is really, really important. If you can,
that's an interesting analogy actually, because it's about fuel consumption as well, isn't it? If you're stopping and starting, you're using more petrol. Whereas if you do a longer stretch.
So your brain is going, I'm on this, then I'm on that, then I'm on that. What you're not doing is allowing your brain to focus on that one task that you are doing. And this is what I'm saying about multitasking. You can't. If you're trying to do a complicated or a task, you are not going to give it as much as you could do if you were stopping and answering emails and stopping to do something else. So this is why this time blocking is really important. It's really good for your mental health. It really is, honestly, because it gives you control as well of your day. And that might not be every day, because things happen, as we all know, that can change your day. But honestly, it really will give you a sense of control, which will give you more time and it will make you feel better. And we're also tied to our emails, aren't we? We're tied to them. It's the biggest thing that we do every day. But by time blocking your emails, it really does change your narrative. and you are controlling the emails, not the other way around.
Celeste, you said there was another thing as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so again, I need to put this into practice myself. But certainly in previous roles where my job, I've got jumped from meeting to meeting to meeting. And ironically, I found this less of an issue since I've gone full time. But what I'd suggest is put it, actually scheduling in your calendar 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after. Because the amount of times I would kind of jump from one meeting to the next without any time to recalibrate, you know, just kind of get my thoughts down and again, perhaps do a quick prioritization of what the action points were before then jumping into the next meeting. And again, I think I saw some research about a year ago that said you should have 10 minutes at least, but you know, between meetings.
But that's where that planning, your day before,
3
days before sometimes if you need to, but by planning, you will allocate, that's how long that meeting is, what I think is going to happen. Then I'm going to give myself that time, then that. And by setting your plan, again, you're in control of that, you know, as much as can be. You've given yourself and allocated yourself that time, you know, and a lot of this, and I know skimmed over it, is really to do with your mental health. You know, because we live in a world that is so fast paced, where things are being thrown at us constantly, where our brains are going 24/7 constantly. It really is important to set yourself that time that just breathe. Right. What did I learn from that? What are my action points? Because that also is part of your planning. That's giving you time to plan. So that's what I'm saying about the planning. It really is about taking control back. And I think you can even change that word, time management and prioritization, to control. You're controlling your day. And whether that's planning it, time blocking, managing how you deal with emails, managing your emotions and your feelings through all of this. I think it is vitally important that good planning comes in, and you're right, you give yourself time within that plan to have time to take stock as well.
Yeah, so yeah, that's all I wanted to
Really good. Yeah,
I think as my kind of bit is that I think we can always get better. Like I just think I think I'm pretty good at it, and then I have days where I'm really not very good at it. And days when I've nailed that, I know what's going on, and then days when the diary just gets overwhelming and you can't, you know, time block and you can't do any of that, and you're gonna have to, you know, roll with it a little bit. And like, it's okay to be like that. You know, I think we've got to give ourselves a bit of permission to go, I felt a bit overwhelmed today with that, I'm gonna do better tomorrow. So on that basis, if no one minds, I'm gonna probably end today because I've got a client meeting at 2 o'clock. I haven't had my lunch, and it'd be really good to have a bit of a breather before then. So on that basis, I'm going to take all of our guidance from today and go, that's it for today. But if you've got anything else that, you know, comes up, you want to, you know, put forward and go, well, this is something else I've heard about, then do feel free to get in touch. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Allyson. It was really good.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.